Hello and welcome to the Pause It podcast. I am Dr. Sam, and with me is Dr. Robert. How are you doing, Dr. Robert?
Oh, I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we have a guest today, which we absolutely love. And this is Anja Skodda from Happy Bond. And it's a very cool company that we're really excited to be talking about today. And usually what we like to do is just kind of let people speak for themselves and kind of just introduce their product and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi, well, I'm glad to be with you on the podcast today and tell you a little bit about Happy Bond. So I'm the founder and CEO of Happy Bond, and we are extending the health span of our dogs with nutrition. So everything is science-backed, human grade. We just want to give them the best life possible and the longest and healthiest. So all our products aim to extend that health span, from supplements, treats to the main part, food.
Mm-hmm.
That's our goal.
Well, we share that goal. So we're always really interested in learning about different products and, being able to kind of educate people on what's out there and truthfully educate ourselves a little bit too, because, as veterinarians, I would say just a million products coming at us all the time. People are always saying, oh, what about this one? Or what about that one? And genuinely, I'm like, I don't know about that product. So it's always really nice to be able to kind of learn straight from the source and kind of get a little bit of a sense of, well, how'd you get started? And, what exactly does your product do and where do people find it and kind of all that stuff. So I'd love to kind of know your background and what brought you to this world, this veterinary world that you've stepped into.
Yeah, that wasn't my first intention. I studied biotech science, so I'm a biotech engineer. I worked in cartilage tissue engineering, working with stem cell in research for rheumatoid arthritis. So actually, as I'm a big animal lover, we built in vitro test systems to avoid animal testings in the big pharmaceutical companies for drug screenings. And one major part was arthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. So we basically simulated the disease in the lab without using any animal models. And then at the same time, my beloved bulldog, Tony, that was a skateboarder, he got arthritis. So I tried to help him with all the supplements on the market and nothing helped. So just on that research, how we fed the cells, how we grew cartilage out of those stem cells, I created our first supplement that was totally aimed for Tony, not for the public, and brought him back in a week to skate again, which was great. My husband said, can I try that as well? And he did. It is human grade, so all safe. And actually everyone is on that works for Happy Bond and many other people. So he tried it. He had the same effect that I'm feeling so much better. I can train better. I have no more joint pain. So I kind of started to see like maybe that is something I want to do and give it to more dogs. I love animals more than people, honestly. So I thought like that's a better path. So we started with that product and launched it, and that was my entry into the pet industry. And I learned a lot in the journey, and it wasn't. I didn't know anything about it when I started, so all very new.
Yeah, it's a daunting kind of world to come into too, especially because you have a lot of products out there that, like you just mentioned. I mean, so often people are always asking me, what's the best supplement for my dog? What's the best, thing that I can give them? And truthfully, I don't always have one best answer. It's like, well, I've heard good things about this one. I've heard good things about that one. Some of it comes down to budget. Some of it comes down to what your dog will eat, But I have to just say, I have rheumatoid arthritis. So specifically what you're talking about actually rings very true to me. So I really do appreciate it because, I really understand joint pain in a way that, affects my life every day. So I really appreciate your background, just to mention that. And I see how debilitating the arthritis in our pets is every day. I mean, obviously that's osteoarthritis, not rheumatoid arthritis, a little bit different, but the mechanism of inflammation is the same. I mean, obviously not where it comes from, but how it affects and how painful it can be. So just wanted to mention that.
No, I totally agree with you. And I can state the same thing. There are tons of supplements, and I'm not saying they're all not good. We have a different angle. We're really basing it on collagen and hyaluronic acid and vitamins. So it is a preventative as well. Like we have clients that say, well, my dog is really old and it's limping. I cannot, it won't cure it, right? And it might make the symptoms better. I would always say start as early as possible to support this, that you don't get into the cycle, that the cartilage is rebuilding, because it's mainly supporting the biosynthesis of collagen in your body, which is our biggest protein. It's in our joints, it's in skin, it's in connective tissue. So you really need this to be biosynthesis all the time in your body. And with age, we just lose that ability. So it's a little different angle than just, we have glucosamine as well as an anti-inflammatory, but it is not really just aiming for, we just want to cure the joint pain. I want to start from building it right, so you don't get to this point and maybe prevent this.
And I've actually, because my dog is 13 and he just started showing some signs of arthritis this year. And it's funny to mention that, because I think it's a really important point to know, or to tell owners to start early. Yeah. It's not just about starting like when you see signs like I'm doing, not good.
Well, you can still do something, but sometimes it's, you don't know how much cartilage is left, because it just degrades in the body. And if a dog doesn't react on it anymore and it's 16, they say, oh, it doesn't work. Well, if there's nothing to rebuild or to make better, we cannot do anything on our hands. You can, as veterinarians, as I'm sure, but
we can help a little bit. But
I was gonna say, I mean, there are some things we can help, and there's some things that we can't help. I mean, maybe stem cells or something like that. But yeah, I mean, to take something that's not there, yeah, you're right. It is hard, and prevention is a huge thing. I actually have a 3-year-old lab, so I think about that all the time, just because they're so prone to to having like stifle disease and things like that with their knees. And I often think, man, I probably really should be being proactive in these ways. So it's nice to hear that, and so that people realize that it's not a conversation that's only for elderly dogs. It's really a conversation for probably all pets. Is it something that cats can have as well?
Yeah, it's actually for our mammals. So we have people that give it to they eat it themselves and they give it to all the animals. I started with horses. I'm a dressage rider and started to give it to my horses, just preventative, and that helped a lot in warming up. And I just saw that they're much more supple in their movement. So it was really the same thing but a horse is not with you every day, so it's harder to really see a difference. But cats for sure. We have a lot of cats that, you probably know that cats over 99% of them have arthritis, but the problem is they don't show that. Like they really keeping the pain for themselves and mask that. So I think definitely, but it's just harder to feed a cat with a supplement. Ours is a pure powder. We don't add any flavors, additives, fillers. So if they don't like that taste, I think that's the hardest challenge for cat parents to feed it to their cats.
Now, does it have much of a flavor, or is it just bland? Like what does it kind of taste like? Have you ever tasted it?
Yeah, I'm taking it every day.
Yeah.
But I put it in the smoothie. So I personally don't like the taste. But some people say they put it in the coffee and they don't feel any difference. Dogs love it. There is a taste, like collagen taste. I don't know how to describe it. It's not my favorite, but my dogs love it. They don't have any intention to not like it, but that's kind of different. But we really intentionally don't want to add anything else than pure ingredients to make it the highest possible active ingredients, instead of adding up fillers and flavors and all that stuff. So, and when you talked about prevention, we actually launched a puppy and an adult and senior version just for that purpose of people understanding that there is joint pain and there's joint problems, even when you have a young dog, just for prevention. That if you put it on the package, people understand it easier than just saying, oh, no, I don't have an old dog, I don't need joint supplements.
Right. I think it's a really nice added bonus too, that you can use it for any mammal, because there is such a hard, we have such a hard time with cats, because you can't put them on anti-inflammatories for their whole lives. Like, not that we want to do that in dogs, but at least we have a bit more freedom. Cats, we don't have a lot of great options. I mean, now they have a monoclonal antibody for osteoarthritis in cats, and one is coming out for dogs as well. But again, you don't want to get to that point, and it's not a single thing. It's an all of the above approach when you're really talking about joint health. I would imagine.
True. Yeah,
No, I
that's
think
true.
that's
Yeah.
great. I think and one of the big things that I think I mentioned to you, or you mentioned to us previously, was you're actually, you want to show it first, I guess. Do you
Yeah.
have some with you so people can see
Well,
what it
I
looks like?
only have, well, actually the collagen I don't even have here, but what our major product is, because we moved from that first SKU into making a whole 360 approach for your dog. So you have treats, you have other supplements for skin and coat and digestion. And our main product that we just launched is our dog food, which is pretty unique. So I have that here if you want to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, please
Because
do.
it is different. As you see, it's in a glass jar. So
Nice.
this is human grade food with just 10 ingredients. This is our chicken rice
Awesome.
recipe, and it's shelf stable. So thinking about how you're feeding your dogs today, right? We kind of evolved from 1.0 kibble, convenient but highly processed, hard to keep the nutrients in place, so they have to add a lot of synthetic vitamins. Go into 2.0, which was our fresh human grade dog food, which is great quality. Unfortunately, you have the inconvenience of keeping that in your freezer and to defreeze it every day and have it in a plastic. It's messy, it's not good for the environment, but it's a big step. And now to the next step, I see it evolving into making fresh human grade food convenient. So now you just have to pop open the jar and feed your dog, and you keep this in your pantry for over 2 years, and we don't use preservatives.
Wow.
So this is a
Impressive.
patent pending technology. We cook it under pressure, very gentle, just once. There's not a preheat process, which creates a vacuum, kind of like jarring at home. But this is low acid, so it's a little bit more complicated than making jam. And those ingredients stay intact. It's all complete and balanced by AFCO, even though we just use 10 whole foods ingredients, not synthetic vitamins or anything added. But now it's the convenient way, and you have a sustainability aspect. The glass jars are recyclable and reusable.
Right. So I was just going to ask that. So it is complete and balanced, and you had to do AFCO. Was that had to have been a pretty big undertaking to go for the full meal. Did you, so I know you're a scientist yourself. How did you formulate that? Did you have to work with a nutritionist, or what was that? What did that look like?
Yeah, we actually work with veterinarians and PhD animal nutritionists. He worked for all the big companies before. And then I asked him if he could help us doing that. He's on staff with us for the last 2 years. And in the beginning, he said, I don't know if that's possible, not adding anything. But he did it. And it took 2 years. Let's say the whole process on making this happen as a long journey, just not only from the manufacturing part, but also from balancing the nutrition, getting the right ingredients. And I don't know how many lab tests we've been through for every single ingredient. Each time we get a new supplier, it has to be tested. All the values have to be right. Every batch is tested. So there's a lot of that background that people don't really see. And especially when you bring something new to market, to understand that this actually does work. You're not doing anything wrong when you put it in your pantry. In the beginning, I had people calling like, oh my God, it arrived and it's not cold. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. You can still feed it.
Part of the plan.
That was a challenge but now it's really, it's a game changer for me. I have 2 dogs. I used to cook for them. I used to have all these frozen really good brands, but it's just my freezer is not very big, and it was just a hassle. And as soon as I forget to defreeze it during the day, you panic at 5 o'clock when you have to feed the dogs, and it was honestly pretty messy. And what I didn't like personally is that it's always a mash of a more meat dough. Like, you don't see the meat pieces; it's mainly ground, which we really try to avoid. We have breast meat, we have stew meat, real pieces, so you actually see that this is not like a bad part of the animal.
And I think it's so important what you mentioned about, making sure you're testing everything, making sure that on the, they're taking in the food, but then it's doing actually what it says it's doing. You know what I mean? Because that, I think we've seen so many issues with food with dogs where things were thrown together and not by people who really had any sort of education or knew, you know what I mean? But really that's where a lot of that distrust comes in, you know, like you said, like you had people being like, are you sure this is okay? You know, because because you really don't know. And everybody wants to feed a healthy diet. They want to make sure that they can help their pet live the best life possible. And, you know, there's no question that nutrition is how you do that. You know, that's the building block to everything. And so I think it's so important that people understand that this wasn't just like I think these things look good, you know, it's like a really well tested, you know, looked at sort of a situation, because those are the questions you should be able to ask anytime you're going to feed your dog something. And just think about what happens when it goes wrong. I mean, you know, food causing heart disease and all sorts of other stuff when you just have people throwing together, you know, the latest trend. And so it's really refreshing to hear everything that you put into it. And I hope people understand what an undertaking that is, because it truly is one.
Yeah, well, it sounds very easy, right? When you read the ingredients panel, you won't find any word you don't understand. It's, you know, carrots, rice, chicken. There's nothing that you haven't heard of. But the same, I mean, yes, it's an undertaking to make it simple, because if you want to put a long ingredients list together, it's much easier. And get back to your point that people mistrust the brands or the industry. It's also we're not regulated, right? I could launch that without being FDA certified, and nobody can actually take it off the shelf. Right. So I feel like that is kind of the problem, that we really not, if the dog gets sick, there's no authority that can actually say you cannot sell this anymore. Right. So I feel that's our responsibility as the brands in the pet industry to make sure that we follow standards and not putting anything out there that makes dogs sick. And I don't think any brand had that intention. No, but if it happens, even if you don't know your research or things go wrong, suppliers are not honest, you just have to be honest back and deal with the consequences. So we really monitor every batch, and hoping that that's enough to keep our dogs safe.
Right. But I think also the intention that brought you to this space makes a huge difference. You know, I think that some of the, you know, and I hate to say it like that, but sometimes, you know, some of the chefs out there that just were like, oh, I'm just going to make a dog food, you know, put it out there. You know what I mean? Like I think there has to be a really important part of this undertaking is longevity, health, and you know what I mean? And where you started from comes from a place of healing and trying to take your pedigree and your understanding of science and your understanding of the complexity of the simple and actually using it to heal, which I think is something I really appreciate. I know Robert really appreciates as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I really enjoyed talking to you. I think we met in San Francisco at a Purina event, and I remember just hearing about your product while we were there. I was just like, you already have that kind of natural trust, because like you have a background that shows that you know what it's like to make something that's safe, and because you're doing, you know, experiments, you understand that process, how difficult it is. So you've already gone through a lot of procedural things to make sure that your product is ready to show the world, be safe for our pets, and that's the biggest thing. So that's why I really love what you're doing. I think it's a cool thing, and obviously inflammation is a big part of our jobs every day. So being able to reduce that and do it in a you know, a fun way, that's something that people are so obsessed about their pets' diets these days, and there's so many like any owners making their own diets all the time. This is a much safer alternative. It's shelf stable. It's good for the environment. Kudos to you, honestly. It's awesome. I'm a big fan.
Can I ask a little bit more, just because, you know, some people maybe aren't ready to switch their entire diet, let's say. So you were mentioning that you have the option of toppers. So can you explain like what the different, are they each dedicated to a different, you know, like some for skin health, some for, but like how does that work, that what you have?
So the food is just a complete diet for every dog, every stage of life, beef too. So you can use it as a topper, but I heard it so many times that people cook for their dogs, and you know, I love when people do that and have the time. The only challenge I see is like the complete imbalance. How do you really make sure that the dog gets all the vitamins over the time being? And that's why it's a good alternative, even if you have big dogs, because our jars, the one jar of that feeds up to a 40-pound dog a day, which it's pretty dense. If you see, it's like nearly a pound. But it's so dense because we have 70% protein in there that you don't need much more. So it's not like kibble. You would compare that you have a much bigger portion because it's a lot of empty calories. Most of the time, there's a lot of fillers in there. So that's kind of an educational part as well, that you don't have to feed your dog as much. And people that feed fresh are kind of used to that. But even though for a big dog, if you have a 120-pound dog at home, I don't think you want to feed 3 jars a day. I mean, it would be great, but it's also expensive. So I'm thinking that many times those bigger breeds will feed dry. It's just more convenient. But if you just top it with 10-20% of fresh, that still brings benefits, not only for the palatability of the dog food, but also from nutrient standpoint. Like, I think anything you can do to feed fresh and really human grade and good ingredients makes a difference. So topper for sure. There's no limitation on how much you want to top it and what kind of food. I would just always check the protein amount that is in the other food. Some dogs are sensitive to much protein. We get a lot of questions of, my dog is sensitive to high fat, to this. So that's why we have 3 recipes. Chicken one is the leanest. If your dog needs to lose weight, I would pick that one. It's really just chicken breast and chicken thighs. So there's no skin, there's no chicken fat added, which also causes a lot of allergies. So none of that is in any of our diets. The tenderloin is grain-free for dogs that are sensitive to that. That's just sweet potato. And the beef and broccoli is the high performance, I always say, like for really active dogs. It's pretty high in calories.
Okay.
Sounds great. I might buy some for working out. Beef one. That's great. So.
Well, actually, I ate all of these myself. And my daughter lately started to eat the beef, and she said, "Mom, if you heat this, I could have that for school." She loves stew, so it tastes like a little bit like a stew. So it's all
it kind of looks like it.
Yeah,
it does.
It says a lot if you feed it to your kids. I think that's enough of a. That means enough for me.
Yeah.
Like, you feel good about feeding it to your kids. It's probably safe for your pets. So I'm on board.
It's like baby food. Remember the old days when we had baby food in this little glass jars? It's kind of the same thing.
Oh yeah, we still use it for pets at the hospital.
I was gonna say that's what whenever I smell like chicken baby food, I think of feeding it to puppies and kittens and dogs in the room. That's usually what we get them. Or our critical patients who were just like, eat something. Here's some baby food,
Nice.
Absolutely. And I want to also bring up, you also are doing some other things on the side. You're doing a lot of things, first of all, so all impressive. But it sounds like you just started a charity, or you have plans to start one in the very near future. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the bigger picture for me was always to feed all dogs the best nutrition, not depending on if they have the means to afford it, and especially rescues or homeless dogs that might not get the best food, and those are the ones that need it. So we started Happy Bond, a nonprofit recently, that we are aiming to feed rescue dogs and homeless dogs, and also in the process of building a sanctuary for dogs that don't find a home as fast, especially kill shelters. California is one of the biggest states to have the most euthanized dogs and kill shelters. And right now, I know, surprising, but and right now the shelters are really like overfull. A lot of people giving their dogs back due to going back to work. I know many rescues saying that if you want to save a dog, keep yours. Just don't hand them back. But the shelters are full. They're killing dogs. So the sanctuary will be a place where we can get those dogs and give them more time to get a new home, and not be on a 2-week time frame. Like, if you're not standing out, you have to die. So that's kind of the longer term that we're aiming to start next year. But the nonprofit proceeds of our revenue goes into nonprofit to then feed dogs. We did a fundraiser for Maui for those dogs to feed them, and we'll help all those areas where there's more nutrition needed, and especially for those that are in need. You feel that they're nervous, they need the best nutrition as possible in those stressful situations. And many times what the rescues are getting is free sponsored food, is mainly kibble. And I just think it's wrong. I think they should get the best food. So
I mean, because all those dogs are coming from poor situations where they don't have, they've been eating scraps their entire life. So I think trying to replenish that faster would be, it's an awesome way to do that. I think it's awesome what you're doing. So thank you for giving back. I think that's another reason to buy Happy Bond. So if you're looking for another good cause, besides myBalto, obviously, we're cool too. But check out Happy Bond. It's a good way to help support pets in different ways. And I think that's I love just the generosity that we're seeing from so many different people in the community. We're all kind of finding our own way to help, and that's what makes it pretty special.
Yeah, I think the goal of being able to give back and to really kind of, try to fix situations that, it's not their fault. You know what I mean? So if we can give them some time and give them some good nutrition, I think that's super important. Can you share your website so people can kind of check out what you guys are doing and everything?
Yeah, it's just happybond.com. You will see a lot of information, even if you go down to building the bond, or our health span education shows you not only nutrition, but also the activity a dog needs, bonding moments, socialization. Dogs are like us, need all those 3 pillars. So we call it like the health span that build out these 3 pillars. It's kind of comparable if you eat the best diet in the world, but you just sit at home and binge watch TV series, you won't be healthy because you need to move and you need to socialize and stimulate your brain. So there's all these parts that goes the same way for dogs. And I feel like we put this out there. Not many people have the time to scroll around, but at least there's the information available. And that's our biggest goal, not only feeding them the best, but getting the people to understand that their pets have other needs too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is really important. And I think a lot of people, like you said, they got pets during the pandemic and maybe didn't really understand what that meant, or thought that they would have a different ability to be home with them all the time, or didn't get a chance to socialize them, or whatever else. And it is also important because, yeah, we're not just one thing, our environment is important, and everything else. So it's always nice whenever people want to put information out there. Are your products only available through your website, or where else can people find Happy Bond?
They're on our website. The food is exclusively on the website and in specialty pet stores around the country. We do have a location map on the website. We are aiming to be more in California than we are now. But supplements you can find at Erewhon, Healthy Spot here in California regions. Otherwise, there is much more on the East Coast. On the website, you have all our products. You also find it on Amazon.
Oh,
so just not the food, not the food yet. That's only on the website. And we have a subscription on the website as well to make it easier for you to auto ship, pick your frequency, your amount, and it's 20% cheaper to do that.
Even better. That's listeners, pay attention. So save some money and feed your dog some pretty cool stuff. I'm excited. I really appreciate you being on today to share kind of what you're talking about, and we're excited to work with you guys more in the future as well with myBalto.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a treat to get to kind of hear from people and see how they're giving back to the community and everything else. So if people do have any questions, they can also always kind of get to us through podcast at mybalto.com. And a lot of times we'll have questions after the fact, and people will say, so if we get any questions, we can always forward them to you. And it's we just really appreciate your time and everything that you're doing. This has been like super interesting and super fun, and I really appreciate people taking their knowledge and making pets' lives better. That's all we're trying to do, for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's what you do too, so it's a good cause.
Good team effort, so
yeah.
I'm excited for it. So.
It's so wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and this has been the Pause It podcast. Thanks everyone for listening.